Former Chairperson.
President Ramaphosa's SONA speech was largely economy-focused. He referred to signs of improved economic growth on the horizon and an improved macroeconomic context in terms of lower inflation, interest rates and a stronger rand. But he was realistic that much more work needed to be done to prime the country for material economic growth. Chief economist at the Efficient Group, Davi Root, says the president said all the right things, but that the test would be in the implementation, while also questioning certain realities.
Very difficult for this president to actually admit that the reason why the economy hasn't been growing is because of the incompetence and the corruption and the wrong macroeconomic policies, mostly by the ANC. At least they're recognizing it now, and hopefully something will come from that. I'm not holding my breath, I must say. The president also mentioned the establishment of a so-called state property company, which, depending how you look at it, could be a good or a bad thing. I'm actually in favor of this, and I think if properly managed, it could be a good thing in the end. Then the president mentioned that the electricity prices will be driven down, but why is he not doing anything about Eskom and these ridiculous price increases that has just been allowed by NASA?
The president mentioned that 2.5 million work opportunities had been created through the presidential employment stimulus, with an emphasis on young people and women. Observers in this space say work opportunities need to be monitored and ensure a level of skills development that can assist young people to morph into more sustainable quality employment.
Unlocking opportunities for youth employment. I was very much excited to hear that there are plans in place, especially with the interventions that speaks to infrastructure development and the rail program that is on the pipeline. And for me, that's a step in the right direction, because now we have something that we can, look forward to in terms of what are the tangibles and what are the plans where we can now start to ring fence certain opportunities in our economic sector to saying, let's create those entry-level jobs for young people, but not forgetting the upskilling that needs to happen, before we even get to that point.
President Ramaphosa talked about the government harnessing digital transformation as a driver of growth and effective public sector delivery, indicating that Home Affairs would be launching a digital ID, enabling South Africans to securely use digital services as they engage with different government departments. A welcomed idea, but emphasis by some that South Africans on the margins should not be left behind when it comes to these benefits, and that public servants are appropriately skilled.
You always need public servants, but maybe how do you prepare them from a skilling point of view? How do you prepare people for this massive technological uptake that you are going to do? How do you make sure that they are able, both from a human interface point of view, so that when you are serving me, you are not saying, you're supposed to know, right? You are able to use the technology, you are able to explain it to me as a citizen of South Africa. So I think there is that work that still needs to be done, if it's not been done already. I didn't hear it being mentioned in the speech yesterday, but those people will still be required, especially, and that's what I'm saying, especially for people that are in the margins of our country, people that always need to have a human interface. It's fine for you to have a chat box, but my mom doesn't know what a chat box is.
The Black Business Council lamented that the president didn't take the nation into his confidence about his administration's passes and failures when it came to the numerous country plans in the form of SONAs that he had articulated over the years. Hanki Matabane also raised his concerns about the lack of action on the Public Procurement Act.
The president signed into law the Public Procurement Bill in 2024, just before the elections, before the GNU. And the act has not been implemented, because for us to implement the act, we need regulations. And National Treasury for almost 2 years now have not moved with the drafting and finalizing the regulation. So we can't move with the Public Procurement Act. And unfortunately, procurement is happening. So, for example, Eskom is procuring 14,000 kilometers transmission lines, which means black business, women business, youth business is going to be excluded, because they are using the current procurement legislation, which does not allow for a set aside, because we were thinking out of the 14,000 kilometers, perhaps maybe 4 kilometers should be set aside for Black business, Black women, Black youth, people living with disabilities.
While undertaking to provide more than 2.5 billion rand to over 180,000 SMEs during this year, the President also indicated that the National Credit Act's regulations would be amended to make it easier to access credit at a lower cost. The Credit Association of South Africa welcomed this announcement.
We support reforms that strengthen responsible lending while enabling compliant non-bank financial institutions to serve more South Africans in a sustainable manner. We will continue to engage constructively with government and regulators to ensure that amendments to the NCA enhance both consumer protection and access to formal credit.
Oxfam South Africa welcomed the President's indication that the Social Relief of Distress grant would be redesigned in such a way that it better supports livelihoods, skills development and productive activities, adding that this grant should be seen as an economic enabler and not merely a handout.
Recognizing that the current model needs strengthening is an important step. However, redesign alone is not enough, in our opinion, and the central question is whether government is prepared to convert the SRDs into a predictable, adequate and permanent income guarantee that addresses the true scale of poverty in South Africa.
Are now done and dusted, closer scrutiny will be paid to the upcoming national budget to see how, if at all, National Treasury plans to fund many of the ideas floated in the President's speech. Nampumelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.